Hi friends, let's take a look at LINK and LINK versus USD as well, LINK versus Bitcoin, LINK versus USD, and acknowledge here that we've kind of come up to areas that we spoke about in previous episodes as being our profit taking targets. That it's great that we're here. This is where we want to see the prices at. Could we potentially see something happen here in terms of if there was a turnaround just a little bit? Could it happen here? Yes, it could. And what have we got going for and against those two sort of hypotheses, like the yes/no scenarios there in terms of the prices and what we're doing just now? Well, we've done very, very well in terms of dollar prices. Have come up to $3.70. That's excellent to see. And in terms of this, the oscillators down below, though, how is things looking between sort of if this is our previous low and this is our current high area? What does that shape up like compared to this previous element of it? Over here in the RSI, you can see it's just the same sort of high, like class B bearish divergence, just slightly, but this is still early days, more or less, so to speak, on this thing. So you never know. Like it's always stupid to preempt divergence. In terms of where we've come from, do we have divergence in that sense? And we don't really. Then in terms of the stochastics, same story really, same story. It could depends on how this turns out, but at the minute it's coming in here, it could just satisfy that. If the prices are able to maintain in and around this area, we could probably just escape without getting any sort of divergence there. And on the MACD, it looks like there's going to be some, potentially here if this is our higher high. So, that's just to be aware of. But where we came from, again, there wasn't any divergence where we came from. Where we are now, if you want to do it sort of stupid style and say that it's there, it could happen, then preemptively. But we'll try not to predict things too much in that sense, or put caveats in if we do. But anyway, suffice it to say that this was a profit taking line that we had in advance anyway, in terms of where the prices could come to, and question marks could be in terms of the sort of the bearish scenario would certainly be asked, should we break above this area? We could be looking towards $4.20, $4.32, for instance, as next areas for taking profits at, which in terms of longs. And indeed, if you're managing your shorts in around this area, then I suppose I'm not a financial advisor, not a financial advice, that you kind of the inverse scenario for that. But indeed, if you were looking at this and thinking that you were wanting to short it down, then the profit taking target would be 330 here, I suppose. Looking for anything then if we get below 311 and go down to $3 again, then you're sitting in a lower low kind of here compared to this. And then the question mark then at that point is, was it ever really fair to say that this was a lower, was a local low anyway out of this overall upward movement? And what, and we'll have to sort of reassess things at that point. But you've got the 21 EMA coming in there as well. Plenty of things to operate as support should that happen and it wanted to turn around. And in and around that area at $2.95 and things like that, that would be there would be sort of potential fairly good long entries overall, depending on how the price action was shaping up at that time. Of course, looking at 24-hour chart, you could go down there and back up and things like that and around that nature should you come in here. But things are looking well enough currently overall. We'll take a look down at the 4-hour chart in a second or so, but I suppose we'll just kind of see if there's any different picture on the Bitcoin side of things before we move over. And you can see we've sort of come back up to where this Fibonacci line was drawn in at, and we've come up here as well to the 786 and all the rest of it. This is all these targets that we've had in mind for quite a while, and that's good to see. Where prices essentially need to stay up above we're equally in high as where we were before in terms of our wicks. Our body is higher, and the 236 is there at 47,000. So if there was to be a slight turnaround here, I wouldn't want to see the prices go below 47,000. The reason for that being is that this would look like bearish divergence over here, and you'd be coming down probably in the RSI towards this area and potentially testing out of it as well, and that wouldn't be too good to be crossing over the moving average and whatnot at that particular time. In terms of this here, you'd see the same sort of thing, and you'd see the same sort of thing over here in the positive, the blue line on the DMI as well. However, this is trending to the upside, and it has been, and you see the same thing on the MACD as well. So there's like they'd all be there as it was happening if the prices were to go below there, and of course you'd also be getting in a lower low on that time frame too. So 47,700 on the other hand could be a higher low, and you wouldn't be sort of too anxious about it at that particular time. In terms of the price action alone, you're sitting in higher highs, and you can have bits of divergence happen. It's just a warning sign, but at the same time it does underline the point that this area before we're looking at the 51,500, 51,000, whatever it went up as high as 51,000, area was a profit taking target in terms of the sort of intermediate time frame sort of trading style. But in terms of sort of investing and all the rest of it and looking at where we could be going, we need to see the prices actually go up to the 53,000 area in order for us to say that we're like that to be the sort of double in top area compared to this little phase here compared over here, and moving up above these areas at 53,000 and we could then be quite bullish about this on the bigger time frame. But we have to be aware of how things go around this area and see if this turns into some sort of really sort of weird cup and handle type thing as well. Look out for sort of double tops and around that 53,000. So that's the next profit taking target for us longs. And of course, should we shift on past that area, then we can, you can be bullish and all the rest of it. Let's just see how things pan out really. So the 4 hour time frame, going back over to the dollar, like we said, we'd look at the 4 hour and see if it turns around a wee bit or anything. This is all looking good. There's not the divergence there. We've come up here, we've got potential for class B divergence to do not actually continue up anymore. There's time left in this 4 hours. If we could get a 4 hour open and close above this line, things would be quite positive. You'd have this moving up probably, and you'd avoid any divergence there. Should things actually close down below this, or close here and then move down below, you could actually be looking potentially at having class B divergence there on that oscillator. Over here, no, you're okay. And between the last couple of high, like between this last section here, there's not that divergence. It's between this point here I'm looking at until this high, and then this high, this being the low in between times, and not considering this to be the low. In which case, if you had that bearish divergence, then I'd be looking at $3.43 area and that $3.30 area as well for hopeful turnarounds there, and then sort of definite warning alarm bells ringing at that 311. And is there the same deal here on this between say this high here, which is up as high as this on the RSI, and where we see that there? Yeah, it is. The stochastics looks okay. It's class B as well. You'd have this class B, second class citizen divergence there on the go between those points, and it isn't actually on the MACD, which is interesting. But it still remains to be seen whether or not we'll actually close in this 4 hour candles and stuff up above the area where we are right now in the 50,000s, 51,000. You want to be looking at 52,000, 53, as we've spoken about. But if we can stay up above 50,000 or so and actually get in a high here on this thing, then you could start asking questions about this, about whether or not that's got bearish divergence, depending on how things go. But it's just a warning sign, like ever, just a warning sign. We have profit taking targets in mind, and we know if that we have some warning signs, and then we know as well where there's checkpoints along the way: 48,000, 47,000, 46,000, 47,000 again, yeah, 47,000 as being a sort of like big eyebrow raising areas, and then of course you're coming in here below 47,000 in the 45,000 area, then you're making lows. So that's 10% drop down in price anyway. So that's that's quite a big move. So enough here. Thanks very much. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you in the next episode. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Share it with a friend. Hopefully that was enough of it. I didn't summarize it, did I? I wanted to summarize it. I kind of feel like I did if you just look at the 4 hour section. Yeah, I feel like I'm sorry. I'll get better at summarizing things. Over to Tesla. Catch you later.